Bartholomew Town is brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, the Audubon Society of Rhode Island, Newport Film, and Half Street Group.
Bartholomew Town.
RJ Heim back on the podcast.
I was trying to remember on the way over here. When was the last time we did it? Was it 2016? It was before the pandemic.
It would have been like 19 because I started the show in 18, so it was either 18 or 19, thereabouts.
It was 19, just before the pandemic.
And what's amazing is that still, if you take a look at the breakdown of played episodes on a monthly basis, that still gets noticeable plays.
Well, I'm happy to have been able to be the person interviewed to be able to do that for you.
Well, it shows the celebrity status and curiosity around RJ Heim, that's for sure.
You'd hope that 30 years at the number one station in southern New England would have helped that a little bit.
30 solid years, and it's interesting, too, because I was, with all of the talk of aliens right now and UFOs and UAPs and this, that, and the other, I went back and rewatched. You did a whole series in the 90s on the 6 o'clock news on, at the time, UFOs.
Yes.
And it's essentially available on YouTube, I think, the entire...
Yeah, I popped it up on YouTube like 15 years ago when, YouTube was first coming out. I'm like, all right, let me throw some content on there.
Yeah.
And it holds up. I mean, that was good stuff. For one of the episodes, we flew down to Long Island because I heard about the Long Island UFO network. Through the Mutual UFO Network, and there was a Rhode Island one too, which I did in a later episode. Tracked down some of the people, had to I had to infiltrate.
Yeah.
They wanted no camera, just show up. We want to know if you're a good guy first.
Yeah.
And they wanted to know if I was going to make fun of them, or a lot of the media that came out, especially back then, was mocking.
Sure.
Oh, little green man and all that kind of thing. But I treated them with respect. And I just told their story, and they loved it. And it was a big hit when the series ran on Channel 10 too.
I remember watching it in real time as a kid, and you think about that.
Did it scare you?
Well, I had like the alien Roswell posters up, so I was like, this is like the collision of everything I care about happening at once. But I can't imagine in 2024 a broadcast of any sort allowing the space for you to do something that creative, that interesting, that not, hey, don't go to Providence because someone's going to stab you oriented. And it just shows that when we talk about changes in the media, we don't talk enough about the content itself. We talk a lot about the delivery platform or the bias in the conglomerate that owns it, but creativity in the content.
Well, my hat's off to Ted Canova, who was my news director, who hired me and brought me up from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I'd been for 2+ years after a part-time stint as a weatherman. I wasn't a meteorologist then. Yep. As a weatherman at WCIX TV in Miami. So went to Harrisburg full-time, had a contract and all that. First time I had a contract in my life, and thank God, because 2 weeks after I got there, the bottom dropped open out of that place. Mm-hmm. One of the last family-owned AM/FM TVs in the country. And they had found an accounting error with the FM, and it was losing money. And 2 weeks after I got there, the bottom dropped out, and they said, we're going to sell the place. And I went into the GM's office, and I said, well, you can either write me a check for the 2 years that I'm here, or I can, get to work. And he says, let me see your contract. And he looked at it. He saw how little I was going to get paid. Yeah. And he's like, well, you better get to work then. Yeah. So I spent 2 years getting really good at what I was doing. And then, once the 2-year contract was up, I was a reporter 3 days a week and weatherman on the weekends. But I knew time was limited. Nothing better than that, right? Mm-hmm. Than to put your proverbial nose to the grindstone, if that's how you say it. And, just getting really creative with stand-ups and storytelling and, content and stuff. And then the contract was up and, they cut my pay. And, the writing was really on the wall then. Yeah. And through then Broadcasting Magazine, there was an ad for a weatherman reporter at some TV station called WJAR in Providence. And I threw my hat in the ring, and out of 75 people, I got the gig. Yeah. And the rest is history. I was there 30.5 years. And then something happened.
Well, you've talked about it in a Boston Globe article. We've talked about it off record. Sounds really informal, but we've talked about it in like on a friendship level. But I think a lot of people are still wondering, where's RJ Heim?
Yeah. I had an acute non-hemorrhagic infarct in the left corona radiata. You're like, well, what's that?
Right, exactly. Google that. And
it was a mild stroke.
Yeah.
Life-changing, right? But I count my blessings every morning. I count my good fortune for my good health prior to that happening. It only impacted my right lower leg coordination from my brain to my leg 15, 20%. Mm-hmm. No speech issues, no thought processes issues. I had a little bit of a limp, mostly corrected with physical therapy. But then I was out on disability. It happened September 15th. The stress level was through the roof. There was a hurricane offshore.
And we had tornadic activity here, wasn't that? That day?
No, it was that hurricane that was offshore. We had tropical storm warnings for southeastern Massachusetts, high surf warnings, and I was a reporter on a 10-hour shift. And don't you know, they wanted me live in the noon, and I got caught in a traffic jam and barely made it there, and pulled it out of my Yahoo, made it look good, like I credit myself for doing, and being able to stay there for 3 decades. And then it was like, hightail it down in Narragansett now, meet up with another photographer and another live truck and shoot a couple stories. You're live in the 4, live in the 5, live in the 6, send video by 3:30. And, the level of the workload had been increasing over the years, more and more and more, with less and less and less. And I'm not 33 anymore, 44 either, or 55. The blood pressure was a little high. The cholesterol was a little high. And that plus the stress, I didn't notice it at first. I got off of work. I always go right to the gym, changed my clothes. I'm halfway up the steps, and I kind of dropped. But I broke my fall with my hands. And as I was doing it, it all happens in a millisecond. I looked down, gee, was my shoe untied? And it wasn't. And I just felt a little disoriented. Got to the top of the steps, and I felt a little weird in the head. But you'd think I didn't think stroke.
Sure.
Who would? You'd think, you'd hear a pop in your head or something. No, it wasn't anything like that. So I'm walking over the stretch mats, and my right foot starts dragging on the carpet just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I guess I pulled a muscle in my leg. And then I'm trying to understand, why I felt weird in the head. I'm like, well, maybe I had a mild concussion. So I did the rest of my hour-long workout. Now, I don't do Hercules, workouts. Right. It's, light to moderate weights and a routine and regimen, more to de-stress and that sort of thing. And got home, and the symptoms were persisting. I was like, well, maybe a glass of wine will help. And I made some dinner and, kind of a restless sleep. But I woke up the next day, and the symptoms were still there. And that started getting me concerned. Had some other stuff to do that morning, and then to push myself onto an afternoon-evening shift, I went and, took a restless nap, got up from the nap, and as I'm shaving at the sink, my right leg is kind of wobbling back and forth on its own, and I'm like, I still felt weird in the head, and my foot was still dragging a little bit. So as I'm getting dressed to go into work to anchor the evening weather, the storm had passed. So, it wasn't like there was tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm ratcheting up the stress. The weather was calm. As I'm getting dressed to go to work, it was too late to try to call anyone else to go in because I didn't know what had happened. I still was thinking. So I figured I'd Google it, Can you have a mild concussion, if you break your fall? Right. At the gym, and it said, yes, it could be that, or it could be a stroke. And I was like, oh, gee, what? So that's really on my mind. I get into work, I'm still feeling that way, the leg's still dragging, and I called my boss and then emailed him and said, look, I'm going to do this 6 o'clock show, record the 11, and I'm going to head over to urgent care. Did that, recorded the 11, got to urgent care. One of the few times it helps being RJ Heim. They kind of got me in, but it wasn't that busy. And, told my story. They took my vitals. 15 minutes later, they come out. RJ, we don't mean to freak you out. We called an ambulance, Rhode Island Hospital. We think he had a stroke. And that began the whole odyssey. It was like, oh, my God. Level 1 trauma center, Rhode Island Hospital, Saturday night. Fortunately, they flagged strokes and heart attacks, so they were able to get me in. But it wasn't until after all the tests and CAT scans and MRIs at 3 a.m, they showed me a picture of my acute non-hemorrhagic infarct in the left corona radiata. And what that means is, fortunately for me, it didn't bleed outside of the vein. It was a clog. And a small branch off the main branch that impacted my right leg, because it was the left part of the brain. It's always equal and opposite. So, I mean, what a wake-up call, Then they put me on blood pressure reducing meds, cholesterol reducing meds, and doctors' follow-ups. And I was out on disability, and then my contract with the TV station was up on December 31st. Mm-hmm. And the local team extended my medical leave for 2 months. And when I went to talk to them about what a full-time return to work would look like, I was separated from the company.
Bartholomew Town.
Birds are disappearing from our landscape at a rapid pace. Over 1/3 of those breeding on Audubon Society of Rhode Island's wildlife refuges are in decline. Climate change has taken a toll on their migration, nesting, and food sources. While science is highlighting the problem, Audubon is working on real solutions with a plan to rapidly reduce their carbon emissions. The organization will be free of fossil fuels by 2030, with renewable energy powering Audubon's buildings, equipment, and vehicles. To shape our future, all of us must act. Learn more about repowering Audubon, their avian research, and how you can join their fight for climate resiliency. Visit asri.org/repower. Newport Film screens the latest, critically acclaimed documentary films year-round across Rhode Island. Like a film festival, Newport Film often gets early access to films before they're available online or in the theaters. Stay up to date on their latest screening events at newportfilm.com or on Instagram @NewportFilm. Are you looking to advance in your career or explore a new field? The University of Rhode Island now offers a comprehensive portfolio of fully online programs designed to bring world-class education to you anytime, anywhere. Choose from a wide range of flexible, asynchronous programs in business and leadership, data, tech, and STEM, healthcare and pharmacy, marine and environmental science, and more. With expert faculty and innovative courses, you'll gain the skills and knowledge to thrive in today's competitive world. Are you ready to take the next step? Visit uri.edu/online and discover how URI Online can help you achieve your goals. URI Online, learn anywhere with us. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communication, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience message and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. By Sinclair National?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just decided that 30 years of service, brand building, trust with the public, commitment to excellence, becoming one of the defining characters of a station that achieves such ratings and revenue behemoth level wasn't worth accommodating?
You can say that. I can't. I had to bang out a non-disclosure agreement, and all I'm allowed to say is that I was separated from the company.
Wow.
my 65th birthday, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Was,
bleep that
was
out.
in March. So I got an attorney, and, we reached a settlement agreement. My long-term disability had been denied. I had to get a separate set of attorneys to fight that, and it was approved. The residual effects are post-stroke fatigue. It's a real phenomena. Happens to 50 to 80% of people who have any kind of stroke, a mild one like I did, or even one where you're debilitated. Or have to learn to walk and talk and speak again. And what that means is I'm good for about 5 hours, and then it's like I run out of gas, But I'm at the gym 3 times a week. Not those Hercules workouts. Never did them. Just stay toned and, preserve the vehicle for my soul.
Sure.
Got to look good. Got to feel good. That's half the battle right there. And I'm moving onward. It was tough psychologically.
Yeah.
Not just physically going through that, but then psychologically.
Well, it's not just a job like where you punch the clock. You're an artist, and you develop this two-way relationship with the audience that is unusual in that it's not like you're on a stage and you get the immediate feedback like applause or boos or whatever it is. You get the feedback either spiritually, you kind of feel it, I think, a little bit in real time, but then you really get it when you're out in the community and people approach you or people understand the impact that you've had on their lives, whether it's helping them through storms or the many stories that you've shared over the years or the entertaining, interesting, science-oriented stuff that you've done. That resonates and shapes a community, and you get that back. So to just not have that in your life it's not a natural thing to just step away from. Right.
And that's where I've done therapy for a number of years. I had, some family issues. I had an older brother who took his own life. It's 20 years ago, Thanksgiving. And so I've done therapy for that prior to his suicide, after his suicide as well. And then just before the stroke, I felt a need to look up the guy, and thank God he was still in business. To have to start all over again, I'd be in the chair for 2 years, just taking them up to present time. Therapy is a great thing, by the way. It's hard work. It's hard work, but, you really learn a lot about yourself, and, it doesn't denote mental illness or anything like that. It's a coping strategy. So
it's like drinking enough water or eating healthy or going to the gym. It fits into that box, and it gets stigmatized into a different place.
Right. So fortunately, he was in business, and I'm, I go once a month now, just for tune-ups, sort things out, and it helps to bounce off of somebody objective instead of amateur friends, amateur psychiatrists or therapists, life coaches and such. Honestly, after a while, friends are burdened with it, and they're like, gee, should we go out to dinner or should we go and hang out with RJ and help him through what he's going through? Mm-hmm. And invariably, and I get it, it's mostly, let's go out to dinner. So, there's, look, I get all of it. I understand the more mature I get, I don't like to say older, the more mature I get, the more understanding and I have of humanity and human nature and what drives people. And, that doesn't mean, I cut it all out of my life. No, I'm still a compassionate, empathetic person, and I will always be, because that's who I am, and that's what gave me the ability to do what I did, not just at Channel 10 for 30 years, but in broadcasting since I've been 17 years old. Yeah. So what kind of brought me out of it was, not really brought me out of it, but helped me cope with it, was to focus on what I can do. Let go of the things you can't control, focus on the things that you can, right? And that's a universal coping with the election. Some people might say yes, some people might say no, but just dealing with all those dynamics. Sure. So I had started my web music radio station, Music Through the Tunnel of Time, with Channel 10's written permission while I was still under contract with them, on the stipulation that I didn't monetize it. So I'm like, all right, I'm not working there anymore. Let's monetize it. So I've been going out and, working my contacts, and I've got sponsors now. That's enough to cover my costs for it. But it's always been, music's one thing, and I love music. I'm passionate about music. It was my first recollection of life when I was born, here in the Four Seasons.
Yep.
Symbolically, metaphorically, artistically, the band, the Four Seasons.
Right.
For a weatherman, get it? Meteorologist that I became. So I just love music. But while some people are very passionate about music and oldies in context of the different genres and the history and such, invariably, my audience, my 18,000 social media followers, I've got 14,000 on Facebook. I'm migrating my ex-Twitter to Blue Sky.
A much better
but
place.
I've got 4,000 on Twitter. That's where I also promote my music through the tunnel of time, but always in the back of my mind, let's have a video companion, because music can only go so far. If I've established myself as an on-camera, on-television person, well, let's get some broadcast equipment. Let's synergistically roll out TV through the tunnel of time, which the website is up and rolling. It's still in its beta stage. Mm-hmm. I tried shooting one story with my phone, and it's just not the same. So, so I went out and bought my broadcast video equipment. I have the same kind of ENG, electronic news gathering gear, VJ one-man band equipment. I've got the broadcast camera. I've got, the tripod, the lights, the lavalier microphones, the wireless mics. And I've come up with lists of stories that I want to do. Feature stories, contextual stories, the same kind of stories I've been doing at not just Channel 10, but WHP in Harrisburg, to a certain extent, not much WCIX, which no longer exists. It's Channel 6, but it's called something else now. And at Newswatch 9 in Naples, Florida. That was my second TV job. And my first TV job, which was Channel 51 in Reading, Pennsylvania. So that's the stuff that gets me excited. Not just the music. I mean, I'm multifaceted and all that. But let's give them what I've given them before. And I think that's going to synergistically work very well. With music through the tunnel of time, I'll cross-promote on both the platforms.
Yeah.
And like you do, podcasts. So I came up with... I've been meaning to write this book, Bill, about...
Up and down the broadcast trail?
Up and down the broadcast trail since I can remember. I think it was, some of the radio stations and TV stations. I think these stories are so unbelievable.
Yeah.
No one will ever believe them unless I really tell them that it really happened. So... Or step number one of getting something like that launched, get a logo made. Yep. So with my web developer, Carrie Ambrosino, who's great, she's local, you can email her and send her some sketches and back and forth and come up with a logo, right?
Yeah. Then
Then the logo's there. Then it's sitting on the desktop. So I've got those three, up and down the broadcast trail. It's going to be a podcast, but I've been meaning to write that book forever called Up and Down the Broadcast Trail. So one morning I woke up and it all came together in my head. It was like, okay, I'll do a podcast half hour or so each episode, just telling the stories, adding sound effects. I was the paper boy in the neighborhood who had a bicycle and the only kid who had a bike that had a portable radio strapped to the handlebars. They made them at Radio Shack called Realistic, and I'd listen to WFIL and WABC out of New York. We were living in Yardley, Pennsylvania, Bucks County. And, I'm listening to the top 40 giants and the jingles and the music and everything, which is kind of what I'm doing with music through the tunnel of time.
Yeah.
But telling the stories and adding the sound effects of, the bicycle pedaling and kids playing in the background to create that theater of the mind. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep recording these episodes. Haven't started them yet. Mm-hmm. It's on the list. And then I'll transcribe each one of them. And when they're all done, transcribe them. The book's done, too.
The book's done, right. Which is, it's like how Howard Stern wrote his books, was basically he would just walk around with a tape recorder and basically do what was not yet a podcast because it didn't exist yet, but you essentially recorded a podcast and then transcribed them.
Right.
And it's like for a certain type of creator, that's an interesting approach.
Right. So there was the need to have these projects to focus on.
Yeah.
To pick up where I left off when life interrupted, when circumstances of life interrupted. It's like, I'm not going to fold. I'm not done yet. I have things to do.
Yeah, for sure. And Music Through the Tunnel of Time is amazing. It's an amazing radio station, and the curation of it, the sound is great. It has that big FM processing, but it doesn't sound like anything else in this market, or it's unique in its presentation.
Thank you. 1,000 to 2,000 tune-ins a month. I have a hardcore group of listeners that are listening 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Not in the thousands.
Yeah.
But who knows?
It'll get there. It takes so long, I think, for people to discover and then build that habit. And as radio changes more and more and more and more, people are starting to become less terrestrial oriented.
Right.
And so they find something that they like. It doesn't matter if it's on the FM band or the AM band, and that growth is going to happen.
Well,
I think,
technologically, a couple things have to happen. People buy a new car.
Yeah.
And it has to be able to take, if you're listening to my radio station, Music Through the Tunnel of Time, on the phone, Bluetooth's enabled, you get in your car, and automatically it'll start coming out of your speakers.
Yep.
I think the next part, too, would be to have programmable web radios in cars where you can do the push-button presets. It's like, okay, I want to listen to Music Through the Tunnel of Time. That's button number 1.
Yep.
Button number 2 can be Bartholomew Town podcasts.
Yep.
Cue
the next one up. I think that's where it needs to get to as well.
Right, but that may be a number of years before that happens. But I'm on the ground floor, and I've worked out all the kinks with the radio station, so I'm up and running. So when people can catch up with it, it's already there. It's established. I'm not going to be starting at ground zero. Yeah.
It's an incredible, again, everyone who's listening to this, musicthroughthetunneloftime.com, and you can access it through TuneIn, right?
Yeah, I'm on TuneIn as well. And tomorrow I'm launching an app. It's not going to be out there yet, but I'm doing a Zoom call with a company that's making an app for Music Through the Tunnel of Time.
There it is. I mean, that's your push button right there.
That's more expense, right? So I need more sponsors to pay for the cost. So
right.
I don't go homeless.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
But I'm on Social Security now, and scraping a little bit off my IRA, which was my 401k that was rolled into that, and just shaving a little bit off of it every month. And I was fortunate in real estate over the past 30 years. I have a condo property that I rent out, and an Airbnb that I manage too. So there's lots of things to keep me busy. Mm-hmm. And when you go through an experience like I did, and look, I'm not the only person that goes through crap in their lives.
Right.
And it makes you more empathetic to other people who do, because it's like, but I don't feel singled out,
Sure.
But it also makes you realize that life is finite for everyone. And it's like, well, how many good years do I have left? Well, I'm taking care of the vessel. The vessel for the soul. I'm putting out my positive energy, my compassionate, empathetic stories that are fair and balanced. Yep. But that's one of the few times that phrase is actually actually used in its correct phrase, in its correct term, not as any Orwellian speak.
Yeah. Double speak here, exactly.
Like some of the stories I want to work on, and I was coming across these stories. I always write down story ideas. You've heard of the Sons of Liberty Tavern on Main Street, right?
In where? In Wakefield? In Providence?
Yeah.
Well,
sure. This was the first spark of the American Revolution.
Yep.
The first real spark. I guess they had better PR people in Boston to claim the Boston Tea Party was the first spark of the American Revolution. But what predated that was a bunch of guys who were the merchants, some of the Brown descendants, right, that became Brown University and that empire and all that. They were so PO'd about getting taxed by Great Britain that was still imposing taxes over here. They went and they burned the Gaspee in Narragansett Bay. And hence you have the Gaspee days. But it's a parking lot now on Main Street next to the AG's office.
Right.
And there's a plaque that says Sons of Liberty on it. Well, I haven't broadcast any of this stuff, but I mean, it's out there. That building is now a residence up on College Hill in my neighborhood. They picked it up and moved it. I haven't done the research on when, but it's someone's house right up.
The actual building
The
from
actual
that era.
building.
Wow. Amazing.
So
it's a great story.
So, I'm not going to... I'm going to flesh out the story and talk with the tourism council and talk with the state and talk with the owners of the house and say, you know what? There is a gold mine here, a treasure.
Yeah.
This was the spark of the American Revolution. Forget the Boston Tea Party. Maybe even ask, gee, could they buy the house and put it back on there on that parking lot and make it a museum?
There we go. Let's see what happens. It's not impossible.
Stories like that. There's also the Lippet Hill redevelopment project. Did you ever hear about that?
I have someone told me about this, but I don't remember exactly what the details are.
Providence Redevelopment Agency of 1946, Urban Renewal.
Yep.
Slum Clearance and Redevelopment Act of 1950. Basically a way to plow under blighted neighborhoods, which also a lot of black families lived in.
Yep.
So it's undertones of discrimination. When they did the Lippet Hill project, it was a guy by the name of Irving Fain, University Heights, and did, we're going to put this in here, but the families are going to be displaced. He built the University Heights apartments, but there was still a lot of discrimination going on. What happened in the big picture was a lot of these neighborhoods were fractured and they never recovered. It broke up families, and there was discrimination against where are they going to go, and a lot of people wouldn't rent to black families. So many layers to that story.
Yeah. Important stories too.
Interesting, contextual, because there's not a lot of context in our history anymore. And a lot of it's fragmented. It's gut reactions.
Yeah, and that feeds, the news itself. What is it? What is the news? What is news? What counts as?
Well, and what fits in 22 minutes, a half hour after commercials on the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah. The
beauty of having TV through the tunnel of time is I'm not constrained to how many minutes my stories can be.
Right.
So I'm going to chip away at them a little bit. I can't. I'm not self-imposing crazy deadlines because I don't want to have another stroke. But I'm on blood pressure reducing meds and cholesterol meds, and getting a nap when I feel like I'm running out of gas. But people who see me, they say, "You look not just great, Archie. You look fantastic.
You look fantastic. You look fantastic."
Not to toot my own horn, but in a strange way, what happened? When one door closes, the proverbial another door opens kind of thing, and you just have to make up your mind when you're faced with these trials in life. You have two choices. You can say, I can let this destroy my life, or I can live my life joyfully, wonderfully, compassionately, lovingly, and stand my ground, stand firm, don't give up your beliefs and stuff. But I'm not done yet. I got stuff to do. One day it will be all over. But until then, I've got stuff to do.
What a relief as well to hear that, honestly. I think it's always impossible to know. People talk about ratings, people talk about reach and things like that in broadcasting, but the resonation of a great performer over a long period of time like you it's impossible to quantify, and it's a great absence, and it's greatly diminished the product that they're putting out on Kenny Drive. Not that there's not good people doing good work there.
Well, you can say that. I can't say that.
Yeah,
I had that agreement.
Exactly.
That I signed, so.
I'll say that for sure. And I think that you're also such a visionary in that regard, because who knows what's going to happen. But if you take a look at even the streaming numbers on Netflix or something like that. I mean, the most basic examples. But I saw a 2028 Major League Baseball is expected to move off of cable television or broadcast television and go full streaming. And that's where
it's all going. It's all migrating there. So I'm at the ground floor and I'm building my little media empire.
Yeah.
To float my boat, get sponsors. I'll be getting sponsors for TV through the tunnel of time too. And that's what a lot of my followers that I have told me. We just want to see you, RJ. Yeah. We love your music, but I want to see you. I want to, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Give them what they want.
Yeah.
And have fun doing it and do it in doses. Not to run myself into the ground.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It's like, all right, I'm going to chip away a little at it this day, and then I'm going to the gym, and then I'm going to have a late lunch and take a nap.
Sounds like the life right there. Can I sign up for that?
Well, fortunately, I was fortunate enough to be in the position to make a nice middle-class living at what I was doing. Not very many people have that opportunity. And I was blessed with the opportunity, and I'm thankful for all the experiences in broadcasting since I've been 17. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any ill will towards any of the players that have one way or another steered my career, because I'm self-determined. And when there's a roadblock, all right, I'm not just going to park the car on the side of the road. I'm circumnavigating around that speed bump. Yeah. And getting back on the road.
The great R.J. Heim.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. R.J. Heim.
I'm just a cool guy.
RJHeim.com, musicthroughthetunnelofTime.com, TV Through the Tunnel of Time. On what, YouTube? Is that the...
No, it's TV. It has its own webpage.
Okay.
TVThroughthetunnelofTime.com. And it's a lot of the stuff is from my webpage that I have. That's RJHeim10 on YouTube directly.
Okay, so that's your YouTube handle, RJHeim10.
Right, and then to come the up and down the broadcast trail, however that's going to work out.
That sounds awesome.
I'm thinking on to launch that without even shooting stories. I can do it right out of my office with less energy expended. I've gotten all the old tapes of all my stories over the, since my first TV job in 1983 and 83 and at Channel 51, I got them all digitized.
Really?
That was expensive.
Yeah,
but it's a business expense under the umbrella of the Music Tunnel LLC, which has the TV Through the Tunnel of Time, Music Through the Tunnel of Time, up and down the broadcast trail. Yeah. So, having watched, I know we're always going long here. We plan on a half hour.
Exactly.
And how long have we been at this now?
We're still good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Where was I going with that? Someone turned me on to Talking Sopranos. Yeah. It's on Max, where they have Michael Imperioli and Steve Sciarippa talking about each episode and bringing guests on. And Steve needs to be quiet. He'll ask a question 10 times, and they have this guy. There's Edie Falco. Let her talk. I'm yelling at my TV saying, "Let Edie Falco talk." But I'm tracking down old people. I'm in touch with friends that go back to these TV stations. Yeah. Convince them to do a Zoom with me, play some of the stories that I did, talk about it, context, history, what was going on in your life at that time. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
So it's all not going to happen overnight because,
it does take work. Yeah. That's the reality.
And in doses, and when I'm ready for it and not knocking myself out doing it. I'm not going to jeopardize my health to create.
No more New Bedford stand-ups followed by a few hours later 3 live hits in Narragansett driving through traffic.
No, I do miss that stuff, but
there's an adrenaline rush, right?
But there's the limitations.
Yeah,
and rolling with it, bro.
Yes, awesome.
Bill, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. You want to talk about longevity? Take a look at Navigant Credit Union. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. That's right. Today, Navigant's a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigancecu.org. Let me tell you about my friends at Half Street Group. They bring a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. And you can join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. Hey, Bill Bartholomew here. You know, I got a great education at the University of Rhode Island. It's something that I use every day in all of my work. And now the University of Rhode Island, if you haven't heard, they're offering a wide array of programs online. That's right, URI Online. Check it out at uri.edu/online or give them a call, 401-874-5280. I can't thank the University of Rhode Island enough for the outstanding education that they provided me. They're one of the best universities in the Northeast, public or otherwise. Give them a call, 401-874-5280. That's 401-874-5280, and learn about the University of Rhode Island online. Our news desert is getting bigger and drier. Poignant words from Wayne Cabot as he was signing off WCBS New York for the final time, the news radio icon going off the air. And hey, we try to do our part every day here at Bartholomew Town, ripodcast.com, and part of our sustainability depends on our listeners. And if you would like to support the independent journalism that we produce, visit patreon.com/BartholomewTown or just click the support link wherever you're listening. Hey, thanks for stopping by Bartholomew Town. For more content, follow me on Instagram at Bill Bartholomew.